Tots, and welcome to the Dick Family Basement on this fantastic Thursday morning. As my dad would say, I was a little bit late on the uptake. I had some technical difficulties, and I just woke up late this morning. You can call in to our weekly rundown. Here, I just got to get my notes. Unfortunately, I don't have my 1-844 number, but you can phone in and leave a message. That's 1-844-340-5001. I don't have my cell phone hooked up to the soundboard, nor do I have my number forwarded to my cell phone. But just like last week, Connell contacted me through the Podbean app here, where it just has co-hosts and speakers. Just click on the little button there to add yourself, and you can come and talk with me this morning, which would be awesome. Let's get on our episode. Like I said before, you can phone in at 1-844-340-5001. If you do not know this already, I'm also on X. It's at Catholic Mashup. I have all the stuff that's coming up, and I post all the content here at intheredeemer.com. And you can see a lot of other different things that are going on within the Redeemer on X. And I also live stream all of the stuff that I live stream on X also, if that is your way to get your information. So, sports news. Bucks are in the fifth in the East. I don't know if they're going to, hopefully they'll go up maybe a little bit. I don't know. They're playing a little bit better basketball, although they lost the last game, I think, to the Rockets. But you know, I think that, they lost to the Rockets by 3 points. Come on, guys. They have kind of a tough go of it, at least next two games. Today they play the Nuggets. Saturday they play the Mavericks, which should both be pretty tough games. And then they play the Hawks and then the Mavericks again. It'll be tough. My Timberwolves, they came back from like a 25-point deficit to beat the OKC Thunder in overtime, and their big comeback came with Anthony Edwards on the bench. So that's pretty amazing. They're still kind of a middling team in the West. They need to get there. As I said before, they're pooping a group. I'm excited for them. They play really exciting basketball, but sometimes they just don't show up, really. In my elementary school team, my St. Agnes boys, they beat the other St. Agnes team yesterday quite handily. Although there was just a little bit of less, we had that week off and everything else. They weren't as aggressive nor energetic as I would like them to be. We start playoffs next week. After next week, you won't hear anything more about my basketball team, which is kind of sad. My oldest sister, Tanj, who is down for a couple of weeks, she's from Vancouver. She actually watched the game yesterday, so that was really, really exciting. Hopefully, in Thursday, next week, today will be the finals. Hopefully we'll make it. I'm pretty sure we will, but who knows? It's, that's why you play the games, to find out. But the big news is that we are cheering for an indoor football team, right? And we were trying to pick a league. So Connell, I know you're listening here. Thank you for actually going to X and participating in the poll. I'm pretty sure you're the only person to do it. So we are going to follow the IFL, which is the Indoor Football League, and then we need to pick a team. So I'm just going to go over the teams, and you can phone in or leave a message or whatever. I kind of have some of my favorites, but we'll let the people know. So we have the Arizona Rattlers, the Bay Area Panthers, the Fishers Freight, the Green Bay Blizzard, the Iowa Barnstormers, which, by the way, is my wife's favorite one, is the Iowa Barnstormers. We have the Jacksonville Sharks, the Massachusetts Pirates, the North Arizona Wranglers. Arizona has two of these teams. I never realized that until right now. So we have the North Arizona Wranglers, the Quad City Steamwheelers, the San Antonio Gunslingers, the San Diego Strike Force, the Tucson Sugar Skulls, the Tulsa Oilers, and the Vegas Nighthawks. So those are the teams. I think there's 14 teams in all. I think the closest team to us would be the Blizzard. Where are they from here? I'm just looking at the map. Are they the Green Bay Blizzard? I think might be the closest one to us, or the Iowa Barnstormers. Those would be the two closest ones to Saskatchewan here, to where I'm from. Maybe we have a whole bunch of people from the States listening. So, anyways, please let me know what your preference would be. They start. I'm trying to think here. When do they? Oh, I don't even have that up. But just 1 second here. They start playing on March 21st. So coming up, I think they have some preseason. The great thing about the IFL is all their games are live streamed on YouTube. So hopefully we'll have a watch party and stuff like this, so we can watch all the games for the team that we're going to be super fans of. I'm actually going to reach out to them. Maybe we can do some interviews. Maybe if not that, what I'm going to do is give them my 1-844 number, and maybe some of the GMs, or maybe some of the players could phone in and leave a message for us, because come on, like that's kind of cool that they have fans up here. So anyways, that's the sports news that is news. And speaking about that, I am actually going to I was reading some of the, I need a producer really, because I'm kind of doing everything. So it wasn't you, Connell, that did that on X. Well, someone did. Whoever it is, thank you very much. We are going to be following the IFL. Another thing that's kind of interesting sports-wise is I'm actually going to go to I think it might be like my first Warriors game ever, or maybe second. I don't know. Anyways, my sister Tanj is taking myself, Serafina, and Ronan to a Warriors game this Saturday. So it is pretty awesome. So this segment of the podcast, or live stream, or whatever you want to call this, Dog's Breakfast, actually that is the name of our last Cheaper Than Therapy. If you haven't already, check it out on your pod stream, wherever you catch your podcasts. Sorry. Catherine and I sat down and did another episode of Cheaper Than Therapy. I think it's number 67. We haven't did one in a while. We're going to try to do a little bit more on a schedule, but we did do one in February, so that's pretty awesome. Hey, hooray for us. It's pretty good. It's called A Dog's Breakfast. So this segment has been changed over a few times. It was like current events. It's like this. Last week I talked about my podcast that I listened to. Now I'm going to try something different until something either clicks with the audience, you guys, or with me. I'm going to be doing like sort of a kind of ordered stream of consciousness, or some sort of things that I'm thinking about. I describe my mind as a little hamster on a wheel. It's hard to slow down. I'm always thinking about stuff. That's how come when I was young and still now, I have a very interesting interior life that I think about stuff. Sometimes it's not that helpful, especially when I'm trying to go to sleep and everything else like this. I'm pretty sure everyone here listening has that sort of experience when you're about to sleep and you're thinking about stuff. That happens to me quite often, and it happens to me throughout the day. Today, I want to just talk about, and this is not a really well-formed idea or anything else like this, but we have this, especially because of the monolith of the United States and how it, the news and everything else like this. There's certain like moral issues, and there's certain things that come to the forefront that probably we wouldn't really hear about or know about unless for the American news, even though it's happening here in Canada. And I'm talking about IVF, and that's artificial, conceiving of children. So basically commonly known, but falsely taught, like test tube babies and everything else. And basically IVF and all these different technologies takes the action of procreation outside the sexual act and develops them in a outside, and then brings babies back into a mother's womb, or whether it's the biological mother or another mother, and brings them to term and have birth. And so the reason why I'm thinking about this is that how is this connected with all the other moral issues of our time. So we're talking about like gender dysphoria. We talk about abortion, euthanasia. We're talking about all these other moral issues. And I think as Catholics, which if you don't know this, maybe you're listening to this first time, I'm a deacon in the Archdiocese of Regina. So I'm Catholic. I'm very strong in my faith. It's so the reason. So, but why? Like, why is this wrong? So we can sorry, I lost my train of thought. This is stream of consciousness, and I already lost my stream of thought. What I'm saying is, Catholics, a lot of times we want to talk about these moral issues in the context of faith, in context of what Christ calls us to do, and I think that's good and proper. I think that's good when we talk to other professed Catholics who are confused about these issues, and in a sense, our faith is sort of a, lack of a better word, what the kids say, a cheat code, in a sense that it gives us supernatural information to really make sense of the natural world, right? So we believe that we are, I think all these moral issues can be really boiled down to anthropology, right? Like who we are. And as Catholics, we believe we're in the image and likeness of God. And through this innate relationship with God, there is some responsibilities and duties towards life. And because there is this relationship with God, there is a givenness, right? God created us, right? And so we're, in a sense, given this this gift of a body, right? We are given a gift of life. Life is a good, so we don't control it in a sense, right? We don't have this control over life. Why? Because it's God's gift. And I think those are really good ways of looking at these issues. Okay, I think that when we're talking about other peoples that profess, and of course, brokenness and sin gets into that. And yes, I think there is some people that might be confused about who they are, or even confused about life issues and stuff like this. But I think that if you profess to be a Christian, profess to believe in God, you most necessarily have to believe in all the moral teachings of the Catholic Church when it comes especially to these life issues and these identity issues. But how do we as Catholics sort of engage with the secular culture, right? How about if we meet someone, which we all do, that doesn't believe in God and believes that human beings are just that, human beings, just like a rational animal, and that we should do whatever we can to do whatever we want, right? There is this sort of egotism in the secular world where it's basically right, might makes right? Whatever I want, I should have at my disposal, especially if I have the power or the money to do that. How do we engage with that? How do we talk to people like that? And I think one of the interesting insights is that of the myth of Icarus. We know what Icarus is, the Greek myth where, there's this scientist, Daedalus. Just 1 second. I actually tried to pronounce his name here just recently. Daedalus. So there's this guy Daedalus, and he's very, very knowledgeable, super knowledgeable. He is the one that makes the labyrinth for the Minotaur to go through endlessly, right? He is a genius. And he makes these wings for Icarus and tells him, basically gives him the rules, the parameters of what's going on. And Icarus goes and disobeys and dies, right? He flies too close to the sun. Now, this is a very, it's a very short myth actually, but it's lots of meaning and stuff like this. And so what does this tell us? I think it tells us something, two things. One, there is natural consequences to our actions, right? There is natural consequences to our actions. There is something that maybe looks good or whatever that could lead to bad ends. In Icarus, he could fly, right, which is a good, right? But it has to be within the bounds of the natural order. You can't go towards the sun because the wax melts and you're going to die. Also, too, the second part is that all technology has particular dangers, right? And all technology is intrusive. Even the telephone, right? We look at the telephone; it's ubiquitous. Everyone has one in their pocket or whatever. but it is intrusive, right? We all know this. If the phone rings or whatever, we answer it. It intrudes on our, and it's not necessarily freedom, but in our life, it intrudes. We constantly have all this information that we can't even understand or have the capacity to sort of order, right? So what does this have to do with these moral issues? And I'm gonna, hopefully, like I said, this is kind of a semi-ordered stream of consciousness. So I've been thinking about this myth and how we can engage with the secular world on these moral issues, which I think is really important, especially with IVF, which we all think is such a good thing, right? That we give people who cannot have babies the opportunity to have a baby. But for as Catholics and so like this, one of the biggest things is that there is going to be babies that will be aborted during that procedure. Not all the life that was created outside the sexual act will actually be brought to a woman's womb or anything else like this. So that, first and foremost, that is just horrible, right? Like, we can't have that. That's an absolute evil. The destruction of human life is an evil, right? But so what's the ends though? Like where do we now? I lost kind of my stream of thought again. So anyways, I was thinking about some other stuff. Anyways, this is kind of a problem with me when I don't have a really good proper outline. But I'm going to just summarize it this way, and then maybe if people are interested, we can talk about this next week again. Is that so? What is the purpose of life, right? Like, so why are we here, right? What's the purpose? And I think this is really important because we look at Icarus like this. We look at the problems with technology. We also understand that there's natural bounds and stuff like this. But then we go even deeper to say, what is our purpose? What is our telos? What is our end, right? And Heidegger talks a lot about this in, I forget what book it is. But he says, like, let's say a pencil. What's the use of a pencil? Well, I can write a piece on a piece of paper or whatever. But how about if I take a pencil, sharpen it, and stab someone? Is that the purpose of a pencil? And Heidegger says, well, no, it's not. We perverted its purpose, right? We've perverted what it was meant to be. So we can say to the secular world, and we can pick up on this because I don't want to belabor it. I don't want this sort of rambling to be even more rambling. We can ask a person who doesn't believe in God, like, what is the purpose of your life? What is it? What is the purpose? Because is our purpose to be like Icarus, to just do what we want to do, to fly in a sense closest to the sun and then die, right? Is our purpose like the person who created the wings? Is that just to kind of be engaged in sort of this transhumanism, this sort of technology and stuff like this, to such a point where it just causes destruction, right? That's also the myth of Icarus, is that also the engineer there, who I can't pronounce very well, anyways, the engineer is also at fault here in a sense of even not being even more strenuous to Icarus about the dangers, right? So here's where we're at, and I think this is a good in for secular people. I've used this before to understand, well, what's the purpose? Because it gives people the if they just say, well, we're just animals, we just have our own sort of impulses and stuff like this, and then we obey those impulses, and then I basically say then there's no freedom in that. Here is a good insight for all of you who engage in the secular world on this level, is that the real gift, one of the natural gifts of belief in God, is that we believe in freedom. If you do not believe in God, you necessarily cannot believe in freedom, because if all you believe is that we are, all these cells together, if we're just, brains in a jar, if we are just all these pheromones and these synapses in our brains, right? If all we are is a material, basically what I say, meat puppets, then if we just believe that we're just purely material, then our actions and our thoughts and everything else are just determined by that material good, right? Those material, but material products, right? If that's all it is, then you don't have any freedom. And then so what's use of even living then, in a sense, like, or having any sort of choices, because it's already made up for you, right? Because we are a determined people, right? Because all we are is material, sort of like a like a machine, right? A machine doesn't have any free will because it's made up all these gears or whatever that works in a particular way. Now you can have a very complex machine, and it's sometimes difficult to understand how that all works, but it's still, all the actions are determined. So anyways, hopefully you enjoy that. Anyways, I'd like some feedback of what sort of stuff you would like during this time of the podcast, because I'm just trying to grasp for straws. Hopefully it gave a little bit of food for thought. Yeah. So what am I been playing? So we've been playing a few different games over the course of the past week here. Still lots of Blocus. It's a pretty good game, but it kind of gets a little bit tiresome after a while. But hopefully we will be playing some new games. Hopefully this weekend, maybe I could get some people over to play some games. That's my thought. What am I reading? Well, I just finished the End World, Death American Style. I'm done that book at last. Not bad for the genre. I'm actually reading another part of another book in that genre. It's called Doomsday Warrior. No, wait a minute. That's what I just finished reading. Oh, I'm reading, End World, Liberty Run, End World number 11. The guy, so I'm kind of amazed, this End World, I think it started in the early 80s and it's still going on as a series, my understanding. But the guy who wrote this book is still alive and everything else. Has written over 300 books. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I think, if I had a little bit more discipline in my life, I would have really liked to write some books. Anyways, and I'm also reading Perry Mason, Moth-Eaten Mink. Has anyone read any Perry Mason books? I don't know. If so, please leave some comments below if you like them or not. What are we watching? There was no Abbott Elementary last week, so we couldn't watch one, obviously, but that's what Seraphina and I are watching. We're also watching this, I think it's a Swedish show called Rain. It's pretty good. It's a science fiction, post-apocalyptic show. Here is one of the main reasons why I like it. Every episode's pretty short, so I kind of like that. Usually now all the current shows are super long, like 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and sometimes it just drags. And then this week we'll be watching another Paradise. Well, first of all, Paradise is renewed for a second season. If you haven't watched Paradise, I just encourage you to watch the first episode. It's pretty good, and it kind of has a plot twist to it, which you don't see coming, which I won't really talk about because I want you to be surprised. But I read some stuff that the next episode is pretty dark, so I don't know what that is. That's what it is about. So that's what I've been watching. If you have any recommendations to watch something, please let me know. What about this? So this is just like a random thought that's not a disputed area nor an inconsequential hot take. Here it is. How do we cultivate longer attention span to make storytelling good? I'm thinking that like there is a spot. I don't know. Maybe it's because people don't read enough. I don't know. It seems like I'm an old man. And my inconsequential hot take is another old man shaking the fist at the sun sort of thing. But like our attention span is not very long. I see this as a preacher a lot of times. I preach traditionally short-ish. I don't know. Maybe my parishioners can chime in. Maybe I do preach a little bit longer than I should. I'm very conscious about how long I preach, though. And I'm not very cavalier about it. If I do preach too long, it's my bad. And I really get that. Sometimes I do that. But I really try to make it short because I think the longer you preach or the longer you engage in like a story, everything gets jumbled up in the hearer's mind, right? Like there is no, even if it was the best thing you could have said or a story or whatever that you told someone, even it could be the best one, if it lasts a little bit too long, there is a loss of the story itself. And I'm wondering how we can cultivate having longer attention spans. There's this great book called Entertaining Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. I've mentioned it numerous of times. But he was talking about like around the Civil War era where there was all these opera houses in the United States, and we falsely think those were to perform operas, which they were not. They were there to have like public debates. and I forget who was running against Abraham Lincoln, but he has this story about Abraham Lincoln and his opponent were somewhere in Nebraska giving a speech, and they actually were debating back and forth for over 3 hours, and they were going to quit, and the crowd, basically demanded more time. Could you imagine that happening today? I can't. I don't even think, and I'm thinking I couldn't even take that as a person there to hear all that. So, anyways, how do we do that? How do we, what about this? What about, I don't know, how do we do that? How do we cultivate that? I think a lot of times it was cultivated, at least in my growing up, within families, right? You'd meet everyone would gather as big families or whatever. It's at my grandparents' house, and there was always some story being told, right? You kind of sat around. There was no TV on. There was no cell phone, so there was no distractions. And I would listen to my uncle, aunt, or whoever tell a story that I've heard like 150 times. And a lot of times my relatives weren't really good storytellers in a sense, but there was nothing else to do, right? You were forced to kind of live through that, which made me a better person. Anyways, I don't have any disputed areas because it seems like every disputed area I'm coming here is just a recycled one from last time. So hopefully next week I will have a half decent disputed area. Okay. Here's my inconsequential hot take. It could be a disputed area. It could be anything really. But I was just thinking that we need to offer like public classes about how people should interact with other people. Now you're thinking, oh, this is an old man, shaking the fist at the sun about the young people. It's not actually. There was this incident at the gym that I go to where a couple of old people were just being super rude to people. And they were just being ignorant and everything else. And yeah, it was dealt with or whatever, but like and it's just not there either. Like I find this all over the place is that people just don't, and these are like adults, don't know how to be human to other people. And so I think we need some public classes. We need some public decorum. And I think another thing, and this is maybe more of a disputed area. Sorry. I pulled a Catherine here. Maybe this should be a disputed area and not an inconsequential hot take. But we need to have a little bit more solidarity with sane people, okay? Like when we see bad actors, we need to kind of say, listen, this is not acceptable here, right? I think this is what's happening. I think that people of goodwill, for a lot of different reasons, I think for a lot of good reasons, have been very timid to step up and say, listen, we don't do that here, or this is not how we, roll or whatever. Like, could you please just stop yelling at people? I think that's what's happening. I think that another, I guess this is a disputed area, but this is for next week, is that I think bad actors are taking over our public spaces too. Anyways, that is the weekly rundown. It might be just as like our Cheaper Than Therapy. This could have been a dog's breakfast today. Believe it or not, I know I kind of rambled all around. I prepared, and I prepared early for today's weekly rundown, and I actually prepared a little bit even before. So I did my due diligence, a week before, or a few days before, and then immediately before, and it's still, the product is, average at best. Anyways, thank you very much for listening through this. And just hold on, and we will be praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet at 7 a.m. Until next time, God bless, have a great day, and keep it crispy, mellow tater tots. Bye.